I'm a little shocked by this case. I've taken a look at the different coverage that's out there, and outside of just a couple of blue-pilled idiots, there's nobody that's really covering this stuff. Like, sure, the ones that are live streaming the coverage, they're getting pretty good views, from what I can tell, right? But it's not exactly my type of steez, okay? I don't really cater to soccer moms and a bunch of gender-fluid weirdos, okay? And everybody else who's talking about this, oh, I can't find them. Legitimately, nobody's talking about this, and it's so wild because it already has that built-in storyline. Because you got Gwyneth Paltrow, probably whenever somebody has an idea in their head, a stereotype, if you will, when it comes to the entitled, elitist, just genuinely detestable celebrity, is her face not one of the first ones that comes up? Like, there is just... Maybe this is my bias coming through, okay? But I take a look at her, and I've just... she is up there on the pantheon of, like, the Mount Rushmore, and I can't really think of a fourth, maybe it'll come to me, of the women in the past 10 to 20 years that were just told, okay? Alongside Nicole Kidman, Angelina Jolie, and... I can't really, like I said, I can't really think of a fourth, but just those women who you're told, she's beautiful, she's really attractive, she's a 10 in Hollywood. Just never seen it, man. She just always looked like that bitchy lady that lives across the street who would get really mad if you were playing with your friends in the front yard, and your basketball ended up rolling up on their lawn, and she would be the one peeking through the blinds in the front yard. So to see the lack of coverage for this trial, it's like she plowed into somebody and hurt them, and she's trying to call herself the victim. Like, this has everything, but nobody wants to talk about it. So fuck it. I'll talk about it because you guys seem to like it. I just kind of threw the line out there to see if anybody bit, and the return's pretty good, and hey, why not, right? But that was all about opening statements and the first day, so we got to do a little bit of catch up on this stuff, okay? So we got day 2 here, and I'll do a brief overview because that was already yesterday's stuff, and we are ready right now. Right now we have the entirety of day 3 to go over as well, and there was some spicy stuff because yesterday the most important thing I seen was her just being on her phone, covering up her face, having her counsel admonish the media for having so many cameras in the courtroom. It's like, bitch, you're on trial for fucking plowing into somebody, breaking 4 of his ribs and leaving him with lasting neurological problems, which apparently they're supposed to be specialists if there haven't already been, in order to back that up. And taking a look at the comments that were on the previous video, and you guys seem to be kind of interested in it, so fuck it, I'll oblige. So as you might peek in this original image that I have pulled up, this is a recap for day 3, but we'll just start with day 2 here for a second. She likes to dress in this kind of cream yellow colored, that's apparently supposed to elicit sympathy, but when you got resting bitch face like this, it's gonna play about as well as it did for Amber Heard when she was trying to wear all of that off-white soft tones. If you're trying to appear as somebody who's being set up by a pocket running failed doctor, you should probably keep all of the gold to a minimum. I'm just saying. And especially given the fact that it's the first day of Ramadan. Like, come on. Oh, I guess with that in mind, just in case. Anyways, so yeah, like I said, brief update, or just kind of a soft recap, because wasn't a lot of movement yesterday, which is kind of good and kind of bad in the grand scheme of things. Don't know how long this trial is supposed to be, but know somewhat who's going to be coming to testify, but we'll get into that, okay? Because by the amount of tactics that the lawyers are trying to pull, because again, just to harken back to the Johnny Depp Amber Heard stuff, how many times did you hear Amber Heard's side of this stuff lament social media and people, oh, it's just the courthouse became a circus, and now you're seeing Paltrow's team do the exact same thing. Paltrow's attorneys complained on Wednesday about the camera placement at the Utah courtroom where the actress is standing trial. There's cameras in the courtroom, okay? It's a state case, and thank God, because if we had to rely on the footnotes from the media and we couldn't actually see what's going on inside the room, we know we wouldn't be getting the full story. Steve Owens noted early on Wednesday that a new camera was placed on the stand pointing directly at the actress. Well, isn't she accustomed to that? Who looked annoyed by the focus on her. Yeah, you're on trial. Like, what? Okay. Also claimed that Paltrow was harassed by reporters and photographers outside the courtroom, and ensured a court photographer cannot take pictures of Paltrow as she enters or leaves the courtroom. What makes you special? Come on now. A judge agreed not to allow reporters to place new cameras without first requesting they be put up. So as for the experts that showed up, after all of that early morning shit, Wednesday morning's court hearing was dominated by discussions about what Dr. Wendell Harlan Gibby can testify and not testify about. Paltrow's attorneys had sought to limit the doctor's testimony, saying he can only speculate about the case of Terry Sanderson's brain damage, and that he is using his own database to determine the extent of the brain damage. Well, did he not inspect them or what? They also claim that he did not actually see brain scans from 2009, so can only speak about the reports that accompanied the scans. Okay, but yeah, you can also you can see the recency or the accumulation of any sort of brain damage and how fresh everything is, and if there's any noticeable or notable declination in the immediate aftermath of the collision. So okay, Sanderson's lawyers were forced to prove that Gibby's database is prudent and not biased through a judge. Though a judge, said he cannot testify definitively about what caused Sanderson's brain injury, just to the extent for which he's been injured. That kind of makes sense. Dr. Wendell Harley Gibby testified on Wednesday that Sanderson's brain function deteriorated abruptly following the 2016 ski crash. Yeah, that's not good. He noted that Sanderson had more trouble focusing on everyday tasks like running errands at Home Depot, had to call the police to pick him up when he was hiking because he lost his car. Well, I'm sure his car was where he left it. It's just probably he was lost. Those are traditional hallmarks of somebody who's had traumatic brain injury. Yeah, no, that makes sense. But hey, you might not be able to find your car, but you can definitely run for president on the Democratic ticket. Doctor says cause of concussion was the collision. No, you can't say that. Stop it. The Gwyneth's team doesn't want you to say that. Dr. Wendell Gibby says that he believes Sanderson's concussion was caused by the 2016 ski collision, noting, "I don't think there's any question about that." He said Sanderson's injuries were consistent with hitting a hard enough injury that would create a brain injury. Okay, saying that there must have been a substantial amount of force in the collision. Fair enough. And then also, okay, yeah. X-rays from, he said and alleged in the opening statements, or at least his team did, 4 broken ribs. 4 broken ribs. Gibby testified on Wednesday that Sanderson had 4 fractured ribs on the right side of his chest following the collision. Fuck, man, he must have been she must have been flying because he was the one who got hit. He said the broken bones corroborate that there was enough force to cause a head injury. Yeah, because if you got plowed into from the back and you broke 4 ribs, you would have, because there's also other allegations that, Paltrow barreled right over top of him, and if he was lying face down on the hill, yeah, you could definitely spin a certain direction. Well, I guess right side would be that side. And then, yeah, jack your head on the floor, like, especially if you got ski poles in your hand, like, yeah, man. You could understand. Okay, and he added he does not believe that it would have been possible for Sanderson to have fractured ribs on the right side of his chest if he had slammed into Paltrow, as she has claimed. Yeah, there would have been other injuries as well, unless, of course, he was just coming in and he's like, oh shit, there's somebody on the hill as well. Better, just open up on that side. And I was like, it doesn't quite work that way. Instead, he suggested Paltrow struck him on the left side and forced him to the ground when she slid over him. That makes sense. That does make sense. On the stand Wednesday, Dr. Gibby said he doesn't know whether Sanderson will ever regain proper brain function. Well, if it hasn't returned now, normally you can see if there's any sort of improvement over about a 6-month window of time. And now, because this happened in 2016 during the season, we're 7 years on from that. So it's going to take a minute. Okay, he noted that as we get older, our ability to reform neural passages diminishes. No, but that's not true. There's an 80-year-old who's just as neurologically dexterous as he was back in the cut. So this guy's a liar. He's been disqualified, right? Gibby denied that Sanderson's condition could be related to underlying conditions as he took the stand on Wednesday. Yeah, no, that would make sense. Okay, even though images showed dilated ventricles in his brain back in 2009. So he had better blood flow in his head in 2009. All right, cool, great. Sanderson was not exhibiting any symptoms related to the issue, noting he did not have any issues with his gait or urinary issues at the time. Yo, Paltrow plowed this guy hard enough that he can't control his bowels? That sucks. I think it's just serendipity that these images found these dilated ventricles, but in Terry's case, I don't think that they're causing symptoms, adding that he doesn't think they contributed to his condition now. Gibby said an MRI after the collision showed minor trauma to Sanderson's brain. They performed a functional MRI and performed under the average functioning for Matrix. The Matrix is attacking this guy too? Man, that sucks. And though he had high test scores in the other tests, Gibby said he could go from a very bright individual and very capable to just within normal functioning. All his tests were within a normal range except for one, which was the reasoning test. Okay. On Wednesday, Jenny Sanderson, Terry's daughter, said that she felt unloved by her father. When exactly? Elsewhere, she said her father was emotionally abusive and has always been frustrated and quick to anger. Was he brought up by the plaintiff's side on this? What the fuck? Okay. She said that she had to take breaks from her father and did not have a relationship with her father for 13 years. Now, how far back does this emotionally abusive streak in him go? Like, is this something that's just recently been on set? And she apparently added that Sanderson grew angry with the man his wife was having an affair with. Sorry, what? And punched the other man. Yeah. His wife's cheating and he got mad. That's definitely a sign of traumatic brain injury. Okay. But Gibby said he believes that behavior was atypical of the plaintiff. He had previously alleged that Sanderson's relationship with his family only deteriorated after the crash. Yeah, if you have brain injury, that kind of seems congruent with many other instances like this as well. Just take a look at the tumultuous lives that a lot of NFL players lead. Okay, I think Antonio Brown's probably the poster boy when it comes to this stuff. Everything was all well and good that he got a couple of really bad concussions, and then well, you can just go ahead and do some research if you're interested on that one. Doctor says Sanderson can no longer enjoy wine tasting. Yeah, okay. You're supposed to differentiate yourself from resting bitch face right there. Like, brother, come on. Okay, doctor admits there's no proof injuries came from the ski accident. Just a gigantic injury. So this would have came across on cross-examination. Yeah, in cross. Gibby admitted that there's no proof the abnormalities in his functional MRI were caused by the ski accident. Yeah, we figured that out in pretrial motion, so you had yourself set up for this one. My opinion was formed based on a fairly exhaustive review of this person's case, he said. So yeah, you can't prove for sure though, but well, we're all here for one incident, and there's at least two stories that this incident in some form or fashion did happen, but you want to split hairs. Oh, okay. We know Paltrow plowed into or was plowed into, by somebody. Those two people hit. Sanderson and Paltrow collided on the ski hill in 2016. We're just figuring out what ended up happening. Psychologist says head injury consistent with a ski collision. Oh, see, yeah, man. Now this guy right here who looks like every 80s game show host, he's saying that, yeah, ski injury and the injuries afforded in the aftermath, yeah, seems to check out. Sanderson suffered acute adverse change in behavior. Oh, okay, that would make sense. Sudden deceleration, is the most common cause of brain injury, psychologist says. Goldstein, he's one of them boys, testified on Wednesday that sudden deceleration after speeding is the most common cause of brain injury. Yeah, because you've got a certain level of inertia, and then if you're just going to go ahead and fuck that up, your brain's just going to slam into the front of the skull, and then the back of the skull, and then hopefully not as hard going forward. Ergo the concussion. Yeah, he said, explained that the force would cause the brain to bounce back around like a rubber ball in a jar of liquid. Yo, that guy's good. Very good analogies that he's got there. Psychologist says two things happened from Sanderson's ski crash. Goldstein believes that the ski collision changed Sanderson in two ways. He noted that Sanderson was always talkative, boisterous, and over the top, and now he goes around in circles. Oh no, like those weird videos that you see from China of a bunch of different sheep just, walking around in a circle for 15 days straight. Oh no. He obsesses, Goldstein said, noting that obsessed to returning himself to the way he was. In his view, he lost Terry Sanderson. That could just be an emotional tug. But no, man, if your brain doesn't work the way that it does afterwards and you're not really healing like you're normally accustomed to, I can understand that. You just kind of add that for dramatics, I would imagine. Ski accident caused acute rapid downturn in Sanderson. Yeah, that's probably why he's suing for $300,000. But over time, it became apparent that it was more than him being disrupted by pain and that there was no particular... Oh, and if it were not for that particular accident, life of living in a 6 months to a year before would have been the life he continued to be living. Yeah, that makes sense. Dr. Goldstein testified Sanderson was not faking his health problems, right? Because that's a lot of the allegation from the Paltrow side of this. Oh, everybody's faking except for me. The miserable bitch. Yeah, the miserable bitch inside the courtroom. Okay, cool. Goldstein said Wednesday that Sanderson was not faking his problems or making a mountain out of a molehill. He added that Sanderson's behavior and functioning after the ski accident had not stemmed from any pre-existing medical issues. No, were it not for that particular accident, the life he was living 6 months ago and a year before would be the same one that he continued to lead. Yeah, these pre-existing vulnerabilities he had did not explain the acute change, and now the long-term change in his behavior and functioning, the problems he had before, his mood, his anxiety, his personality style, are not the reason he's struggling today. They don't explain the acute changes in his functioning and the adverse pattern of emotions and behaviors and communication he presents with in everyday life. And before we move on to today's proceedings, there's a nice little chart that they have right here. Okay, so you have Gwyneth Paltrow saying that I'm just skiing right down the hill, and then all of a sudden Terry Sanderson just swoops up on behind me, plows directly through me, and goes on with his life, apparently. Okay, but Terry Sanderson is painting a little bit more of an illustrative picture with Gwyneth's kids in the back, who are also alleged to be testifying later when she gets to present her side of the case. They're going to be giving testimony, which, I don't know, man. If they're in the background like that, did they actually see anything? Okay, what could they have seen? Are they going to throw their mom under the bus? Okay, or is it just more or less just going to be character building? Because to say that they're biased would be the understatement of the year. But yeah, so far, when it comes to the defense side of this, having a psychologist and a medical expert saying these injuries could only be accumulated by an attack such as this, and it also corresponds with his retelling of the events, all very interesting. Now, it just stands to believe that today he would have something a little bit more of substance, because yeah, you laid all the groundwork. Now, can you have anybody tie you directly to the case, or is it more character building stuff? Well, I know that there's one character building thing, and it's kind of funny as well. So the first witness to speak on Thursday was a neuropsychologist, Dr. Alina Fong, who said she treated Sanderson directly. All right, cool. So now we have somebody that can corroborate the injuries, corroborate the story just a little bit, but then also provide some expert testimony as well. She said she and her staff noticed that Sanderson really gave his best effort, and they noticed definite improvement, but she said he's showing clearly that he's still struggling. Dr. Alina Fong slammed the expert cited by Paltrow's team, saying they did not see Sanderson dejected or crying in front of him. So, what? Okay, what does that have to do with anything? Okay, no, he wasn't hurt enough by Gwyneth plowing directly into him. Okay. She said it was one thing to read reports from a patient from across the country and another to see the patient in person. Yeah, that's a big thing, because, again, just to draw comparisons to the Depp Heard trial. You had Don Hughes, puts a pox on that name, but no, she sat down for an afternoon with Amber Heard and is like, no, you're definitely suffering from all of this stuff. But then Dr. Shannon Curry sat down with Amber for multiple hours. 20 hours? What was that? 20 hours in total? Or even still, oh my God, what's his nuts there? The Marlon Brando. That dude died though. Or no, I've never seen Charlie in the Chocolate Factory. Do I have to answer that question? That creepy motherfucker. But given professional psychological determinations on Johnny Depp, and never seen the motherfucker in person. But hey, man, I guess Paltrow's team saw that was a winning strategy, because hey, they won one claim, right? So we might as well just go ahead and grab some of their tactics, and that could work, right? Right? Yeah, it doesn't really look like it. So. During cross, Paltrow's attorney, Stephen Owens, pointed out that Dr. Fong never actually examined Sanderson's prior medical records. Okay, hey, you know he had good blood flow in his brain, and then afterwards he didn't. It's weird, huh? Instead, she said she relied on his self-reporting, that he was not acting the same following the 2016 crash. She said that her job is to get to work, get the patient better. Yeah, okay. And she said that there was improvement on top of that. Okay, yeah, good line of question. You don't know what he was like beforehand, did you? It's like, no, but I know what he's like now, and it sounds like he's having a real shitty time about this. Fung says she diagnosed Sanderson with post-concussive symptoms based on prior experience. And again, just follows up and really sows the through line that this dude had a really, really, really bad concussion, and multiple doctors are confirming that he did. So, hey, man. Paltrow's attorney, Argue Fong, cannot definitively say, but can Fong definitively say that? Because I don't really give a shit what lawyers have to say about this. I don't hold clients or what they do in order to advocate, as long as it is within the confines of the Constitution, what they try to do in order to advocate for their clients. That's their job at the end of the day. If they need to pull a bunch of scummy tactics in order to do it, as long as it's all legal and above board, fucking go for it, because that's what they're trying to do right here. She can't definitively say the symptoms originated from the ski accident. Like, come on, she just sat down with him, heard his stories, seen his condition, but she can't say for sure it didn't happen. Okay, he could have done this to himself by plowing over our Oscar-winning actress with resting bitch face. Like, come on, man, how do you know? How can you say for sure? Just disregard the medical information that says that there's no way that the injuries could have been sustained by her telling of the events. No, just disregard that. You can't say for sure if it happened that way. But here's her not being photographed outside the courtroom. Interesting. Wears a gray pantsuit. Who gives a shit? Okay. But here we have some character stuff, and that apparently just took up the rest of the day. Polly Sanderson Grasham, Sanderson's daughter. And this is where we're going to transition, because this story got all the smoke here today, because apparently on Cross, Gwyneth's team was going pretty hard against her, which is, I don't know, man. If I ever find myself in a situation where I'd need to provide character information on behalf of my parents in any sort of crazy ass trial like this, if anybody started to go hard in the paint against my folks, I would probably be able to keep it under wraps. I'm a fairly measured guy when it comes to stuff. I just get hyperbolic and a little bit. I like to ratchet it up to 11 sometimes when we're discussing some stuff. But I'm just saying, man, if they're going to be trying to press me when it comes to, I don't know, flip on my father or say some off-color stuff about my mom, that's not going to fly. The rest of my family, that's kind of negotiable. But yo, man, the fact that this dude had to apologize for being an asshole, a hole of an ass, bruh. I've seen some trials before. I've seen some trials where some children of some parents had to come up on the stand, and some of them handled some stuff fairly amicably, but then also had to testify to, their kind of deteriorated state. And it's kind of sad, because you never want to have to, tell a story about how, your parents used to be a little bit more mobile, but then as the years go on, they just aren't the same anymore. I know it happens to everybody, but it's not something that you really want to dwell on or anything like that. At least when it comes to me, man. Like, to me, I'm always going to remember my parents at, same age they were back when I was, growing up and stuff like that, okay? They're the people I care about the most, so I advocate for taking everybody off the pedestal, but, hey, when it comes to your parents, if you have a good solid family core, I'll allow that. Okay, that's why. Okay, the sidebar for a second. It's kind of apropos. We're talking about a court case. Okay, sidebar for a second. That's why I don't sympathize with anybody who's like, oh, it's really important that we have all of our superheroes. I really attach myself to the story of Superman, and I wear a whole bunch of goofy shit, and I have a life-size Superman, statue because it really means something to me. It allows me to escape. It's like, bro, you fucking suck, okay? I grew up and I had a life-size superhero myself in the form of my father, and an incredibly great, nurturing, caring mother. Those are the only superheroes that I care about. Maybe that means I'm privileged for having a two-parent household. But as much as I loved, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers, and different sports stars growing up, I'm the guy talking into this microphone, looking into that camera right there because of my parents. So maybe their installation when it comes to you living the reality, not in some sort of a fantasy land. Maybe that's why that resonates so well for me. But anyways, back to Gwyneth Paltrow's lawyer acting like Gwyneth Paltrow. At least she picked good representation, or at least representation that was representative of herself. Lawyer apologized Thursday for being an ass to the daughter of the doctor suing the Oscar-winning actress. Lawyer Stephen Owens gave a mea culpa after the lunch break and before continuing his cross-examination of Polly Sanderson Grasham, who was called to the witness stand for her father, Terry Sanderson. I need to apologize for being an ass earlier, he said. It was wrong of me to triangulate you, your dad, your sister, and your mom. Well, that would be to square, because I don't know if you're necessarily familiar with the geometry, but ain't that four people? Ain't that four people? Anyway, I know who triangulates the term, but I guess he's also a dumbass. I ask for your forgiveness. The attorney was apparently referring to a tense moment earlier in the day when he asked Sanderson Grasham, well, it's probably Polly Grasham now, come on now, if her sister Jenny, who had claimed in the deposition that their dad was abusive, was a liar. And again, I don't necessarily hold that against him. That's the shit that you got to do, okay? You got conflicting stories between siblings, and if you can point out to incongruency within a family, you can also extrapolate that onto the plaintiff in this case. So it's a good strategy. It just takes a stiff upper lip. That's for true. Yes, Sanderson Grasham had just testified that her dad had become angry and hot-tempered only after the accident, and the lawyer had tried to draw the line between the claim and Jenny's claim of abuse. Yeah, you could just, it would be interesting to know, and I didn't watch the trial or anything like that. That might change here, and I might have to do some catch-up over the weekend, but we'll see. We'll see. If Polly's the older one and Jenny's the younger one, and if she's the one saying that, my father was abusive, he would get drunk and beat me with a whiskey bottle. The Sanderson, not the Anderson family. But bruh, she has that look on her face. It's like this motherfucker over here. This fucking dollar store James Carville looking ass. Hey, yo, making her cry on the stand. It's like, come on, man. It's like, yeah, she got to talk about the fact that her father flipped after getting, him beat down, and now he's not half the man he used to be. Like, that sucks. And then especially when he got this entitled, see you next Tuesday, sitting there just going, Paltrow's attorney worked to chip away at the argument that the accident was responsible for this by pointing to the deposition in which Jenny made her claims about the doctor being verbally abusive to her and her mom. Well, it all depends. Okay, what's Jenny's background? Does she have a gender studies degree and start to retroactively reassess her childhood? Well, actually, my father was being oppressive because we live in a patriarchal society, and he was just trying to control our movements when we were growing up, but Polly's based in reality because she actually turned up for her father. Meanwhile, the other one's out there gallivanting. Don't know anything about that. Oh yeah, Jenny, who was supposed to testify and backed out, said in a deposition that her father relentlessly tried to mold her. She sounds like an SJW. Come on now. Okay? Does anybody else not see the hallmarks? And that's why I wanted to cover this stuff, because nobody else is going to point that out. Polly agreed. He did try to mold Jenny, but said it didn't go as far as abuse. Yeah, she was probably a wild child, and he was just trying to be a fucking father, a wild concept in the 21st century. I understand. Owens then asked if she thought her sister was a liar, in which she responded, sometimes we experience events differently. Like, I'm the older sibling in my family, and, yeah, in retrospect, sometimes my sibling and I've said it before, my sister and I, we go through different events throughout childhood. I remember certain things a little bit better. She remembers other things in a different light. Not saying one is true or false or whatever, but she takes things a certain way, and I try to take it as a little bit more of an objective stance. But this is also a dichotomy of sisters. There's a bunch of unknowns in this situation. That's the way, and especially, like, I'm pretty sure. I'm about 100% sure that my sister wouldn't characterize stuff like that, and I wouldn't have to provide the alternative take in history. That's not fun to say, so we just put it out there in hypotheticals. I think that's a good response. Sometimes we experience events differently. Yeah, no, exactly. Is she a liar? Well, I'm sure some of her deposition is probably useful to her father, and you just want to, set the record straight by, yeah, no, those are things that happened. Some people take things in different ways, and if you're seeking clarification on a math problem and your father says, 2 plus 2 is fucking 4, or if he said 2 plus 2 is 4, at the end of the day, you're getting the answer that is correct, but if certain people feel a certain way, oh, I'm being attacked for just asking a question. It's like, well, first of all, if you're 19, you're asking 2 plus 2, and what the answer to that is, it's like it's a setup, or maybe you've been plowed into on a ski hill. Anyways, Sanderson Grasham said Jenny has mental disability, but didn't go into further detail about it. 49-year-old daughter of the retired optometrist tried to hold it together on the stand and broke down towards the end of her questioning by her father's lawyer just before the cross-examination. That's also a tactic as well. Not saying it's not legitimate, and it's not a legitimate response to that, okay? Because, for the reasons that I stated before, But then that also sets a tone, and it also elicits sympathy out there. It's like, oh, you got the crying daughter of the plaintiff on the stand, and then you got to come in here and then regrettably go a little bit too hard and make her cry even more in front of the judge. And I think this is a jury trial, and I sure hope for everybody's case. And especially if she's pulling faces like that, it might just be a bench trial. But that's why I've got to do some recon on this stuff if this video does well, and if not, I'll just toss it to the side and cover the verdict. Anyways, after apologizing to her, Owens continued to grill her during the cross. It's your job after all, and you're just trying to walk everything back, and maybe you got some pointers from your co-counsel. It's like, bro, you went in a little hard on that one. It's like, oh, okay, I need to save some face, but then I still actually, got to continue to deliver some body blows to this bitch, okay? Just don't go so hard as to make her cry again. I know, I'll just, lay some groundwork. Sanderson is suing Paltrow over the 2016 accident. And yes, her father is seeking $300,000 in damages, which Sanderson Grasham testified would allow him to get the help that he needs to heal from the accident. Yeah, man, if he's retired because he can no longer be an effective optometrist, that's a good business. That is a lucrative business as somebody who has looked into that area of practice, and that was something that I wanted to go out there and do. But in Canada, there's like one school for that thing, and it's very exclusive access. And if you're a straight white guy, even back in 2008, you weren't getting any goddamn endowments or any sort of scholarships, regardless of how well that you performed, because there were a couple of Asian girls that would perform at the same level, and that they just take a look at the last names. It's like, too Irish, ooh, Chinese, great, wonderful, fantastic. But I don't harbor any grudges, because I'm here covering this trial, and I wouldn't have it any other way, to be completely honest, because who even knows? Who could possibly know? Say I was an optometrist in this situation. I could have found myself, down at the ski hill, and then all of a sudden getting plowed into by, I was going to name a modern actress, but fuck, I can't think of any. That's just how worthless the entertainment industry is. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.